Welcome back to another video. It's your favorite math professor here, Dr. Garcia Hubert. And in this video, we are going to talk about the design of experiments. So we talked about two different types of studies. One was observational study and the other one was experiment. We did a little bit about observational studies, which are your surveys and things where you're just observing. So we're going to jump a little bit deeper and dive a little bit deeper into experiments, all right? So recall that you cannot claim causality within observational study. There's no way you can claim causality if you have just an observational study, so with the survey or things of that nature. But you can with experiments, and it depends, but experiments do give you the opportunity to be able to claim causality, all right? And so, since that is the case, and most of the time that's what we want, causality is usually what we want to be able to claim. We tend to hold experiments at a higher level than we do observational studies, okay? Especially in the medical field. So for all of you who are pursuing medical degrees, this is good for you. It will make more sense for you. So what is an experiment? An experiment is a controlled study conducted to determine the effect varying of one explanatory variables or factors has on a response variable. So remember, your explanatory variables were your independent variables. These were the things that you are changing, that you're manipulating, also known as factors. And you want to see how does these affect some type of response variable. That's the outcome or the dependent variable. And so that's the thing that you're interested in the change happening to, okay? Or the change that you're interested in happening. The treatment is any combination of the values of the factors. So you can't have more than one explanatory variable. And any combination of the values of those explanatory variables or factors will consist of your treatment. So we have a lot of terms that we have to get out the way because this is new, experiment part is new. So we need to identify a lot of terms so that we can understand our experiment. So experimental unit, that's your person, object, or some other well-defined item upon which a treatment is applied. So that's basically the thing that you're studying. Most of the time it is a person. When it is a person, we call it a subject. But your experimental unit is the thing that you're studying. Then you can have what's called a control group. So a control group serves as a baseline treatment that can be used to compare it to other treatments. So when you divide your participants or your subjects into groups, the control group is the group that usually does not receive any type of treatment. That is your comparison group. All right, so you're not doing anything, you're not manipulating that group in any kind of way. You're just using that group to compare the results of the treatment group to this group that didn't receive a treatment. All right. Now, say you're not doing anything, but you can give your control group what's called a placebo. And a placebo is a treatment that looks, tastes, and smells just like the experimental thing or the real thing, but it's not, okay? And most of the time it's medication. So we say it is a treatment that looks, tastes, and smells just like the experimental medication. So you can't give your control group a placebo. That's where they think they're getting a real experimental drug, but they're not. They're getting a fake one. And then you have what's called the placebo effect, which is the people in the placebo group get better over time. If they get better over time, that's called a placebo effect. And that basically is not due to the placebo drug because that's not a real drug. It's typically due to the participant's belief that they are receiving some type of drug to help them get better. So it's most of the time it's due to the patient's belief in that treatment. All right, and we have some more terms we want to talk about, and blinding is one. Blinding refers to non-disclosure of the treatment an experimental an experimental unit is receiving. So that's when they don't know whether they're receiving a treatment or not. Okay, whether they're receiving the real drug or not the real drug. They don't know what they're receiving, basically. So you have single blind if the participant does not know what they are receiving. And you have double blind if the participant nor the researcher that's in contact with the subjects or participants know. So neither one of them know what each participant is receiving. So single blind is only when the participant doesn't know what they're receiving, but the researcher does know. And then double blind is when neither one of them know, the participant nor the researcher. All right, so let's look at an example. Let's see if we can understand those terms because that is a lot of terms. Let's see if we can pull those terms out of this example. So to determine if topiramate, I struggle with this word. Topiramate is a safe and effective treatment for alcohol dependence. Researchers conducted a 14-week trial of 371 men and women aged 18 to 65 years diagnosed with alcohol dependence. In this double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled experiment, subjects were given either 300 milligrams of topiramate or a placebo daily, along with the weekly compliance enhancement intervention. The variable used to determine the effectiveness of the treatment was self-reported percentage of heavy drinking days. Results indicated that topiramate was more effective than placebo at reducing the percentage of heavy drinking days. So the researchers concluded that topiramate is a promising treatment for alcohol dependence. All right. So we got a lot going on here. This is long. But basically, we're going to start up here. There is a drug called topiramate that is supposedly be safe and effective for treatment of alcohol dependence. All right. So the researchers studied 371 men and women between the ages of 18 and 65 who have been diagnosed with alcohol dependence. All right. Now, the participants were double blinded, or the study was double blinded. It was randomized and it was placebo controlled. Each subject in the treatment group was given 300 milligrams of topiramate, and each subject in the control group was given the placebo. It was given it daily. And then there was also a weekly compliance enhancement intervention that they all received. So this we would say is a factor, but it is a fixed factor because they're both groups are receiving that. The drug topiramate is a factor, but it is one that we have set at a certain level. Alrighty. Now the variable used to determine the effectiveness of the treatment. So now at the end, the participants are self-reporting the number or the percentage of heavy drinking days that they had during this 14-week trial. And so in the end, the result was that topiramate was more effective than the placebo at reducing the percentage of heavy drinking days. So now let's jump into some questions. The first question is, what does it mean for the experiment to be placebo-controlled? So placebo-controlled means that there were two groups. One group got the drug topiramate and the other group got a placebo drug. That's basically what this is saying. The control group is used to compare the group that receives the treatment. And the placebo, again, is a drug that looks, smells, and tastes like topiramate, but it's not. Second question, what does it mean for the experiment to be double-blind, and why do you think it is necessary for the experiment to be double-blind? So remember, double-blind is when neither the participant nor the researcher who is in contact with the participants know whether they're getting the placebo or the actual drug topiramate. So neither one of them know, the researcher nor the participant. Now, why is it important for it to be double-blinded? So sometimes biasness can happen if the researcher knows which group the individuals are in, and it could be unconscious biasness, right? So it's important that it's double-blind so that the researcher won't be biased and won't treat the participants in each group differently, all right? Because they can happen, and a lot of times it happens unknowingly, not on purpose. What does it mean for the experiment to be randomized? Okay, so for it to be randomized, that is where the participants are randomly placed into the treatment group and the control group, all right? So the subjects were randomly placed into each group. That's what it means to be randomized. What is the population for which the study applies, and what is the sample? So the population, remember, is the overall group. Now, if we go back, I gotta go back to the thing. If we go back, there were 371 men and women that participated in the study. They were between the ages of 18 and 65, and they had been diagnosed with alcohol dependence. So the population will be men and women between the ages of 18 and 65 that have been diagnosed with alcohol dependence. So that's your population. So all men and women between that age and they have been diagnosed with alcohol dependence. That's who we are trying to study. Now the sample is the actual 371 participants who participated in the 14-week study. What are the treatments? There are two treatments, and that is the topiramate, the 300 milligrams of topiramate, and the placebo. All right, so they receive those daily, so that's the treatment. What is the response variable? Remember, this is the outcome variable, the thing that we're interested in at the end. And this is the self-reported percentage of heavy drinking days. So that's the value that we're comparing. We're comparing that value of each group. The percentage of heavy drinking days of the control group to the percentage of heavy drinking days of the treatment group. And so that is the end of this one. So yeah, we just wanted to, in this video, identify the topics, the main topics of an experiment, and then make sure that we can understand them in an example. So just to go back, some of the terms we looked at was blinding, single blind, double blind, experimental unit, subject, control group, placebo, placebo effect. So anytime you read a study, you need to be able to understand these terms so that you know what in the world they're talking about in that study. All right. If you have any questions about any of these, don't hesitate to put them in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.